Hi everybody, I'm going to be talking to you about GCSE food preparation and nutrition today. So the exam board we use is EduCAS. It is a GCSE and the exam element is worth 50% of the GCSE and the controlled assessment is also worth 50%. Over the course of the 2 years, we look at 5 key areas that we study. So food commodities, so we're looking at where food comes from, how it's produced, what benefit it has in our diet. We look at principles of nutrition, so for example, protein, fats, carbs, vitamins and minerals, as well as looking at what role they play within the diet. We look at what happens if we're deficient in those or we have an excess of them. We look at different types of health conditions which might affect our choices of the foods we eat, like type 2 diabetes, whether we've got a food intolerance or a food allergy, as well as looking at different groups of people through the ages and how their diet changes as we get older or when we're younger. There's a lot of science, so we look at ways in which we cook food and why we cook it in that way and what the impact of cooking has on the food that we eat. For example, caramelization or gelatinization, which you would have learned a little bit about in year 7 when you made your roux sauce for your macaroni cheese, for example, and food spoilage. A lot about where food comes from. How it's manufactured, how it's grown, how it's harvested, and what the impact of food production has on the environment. So like air miles as an example. So the course itself is split into 2 components. So component 1 is the exam. So that's done at the very end of year 11. It's 1 paper and it's an hour and 45 minutes. And you're tested on all of those things that I discussed with you on the previous slide. And that's worth 50% of your GCSE. Component 2 is the 2 pieces of controlled assessment. Both of these are done in year 11 and the exam board set the questions for these. So assignment 1 is released in September. We complete it in about October time and it's a science food investigation. It's worth 15% of the GCSE and the 8 hours you have to complete it are all done in lesson time. So you don't do any of it at home. And it's done sort of a little bit like exam conditions, but there's some obviously practical work. Examples of things you might get for that are, for example, how could you reduce the sugar content in cakes? So you might look at using an artificial sweetener or taking some of the sugar out and replacing that with fruit, what impact that would have on the cakes. Another one we've in previous years, we've had what's the best fat for a short crust pastry. So you've had to investigate that. Assignment 2, that's released in November, but we don't do that till the January of year 11. And that one's worth 35%. And again, the exam board set a question. So we've had planning a 3-course meal for a restaurant for as part of their Valentine's evening. We've had street food. We've had a MasterChef competition where students have had to showcase skills if they were entering a competition. Effectively, you've got to make 3 dishes in 3 hours. So you research, plan it, make it and evaluate it, and that's worth 35%. So those 2 combined, component of assignment 1 and assignment 2 and component 2, that's your 50%. Career pathways. Beauty of this course is if you any career path in food, this is going to be an ideal course. So whether it's a dietitian, whether it's a sports nutritionist, whether it's an environmental health officer, you want to work in a restaurant, absolutely perfect. And the course itself leads on to 2 other courses that we offer in the 6th form. So we offer a level 3 food science and nutrition, but also a level 3 hospitality. And if you studied this GCSE, you could go on to any of those 2 courses here at school. What to expect? Well, as you like now, you have 5 lessons over a fortnight. 3 of those are single and we do theory in those lessons. So you'll be learning all those topics we discussed back in slide 3, and you have a double lesson where you'll be cooking. Some lessons we have demonstrations, again, like you do now in year 9. So you're shown how to fillet a fish, portion a chicken. We do food science experiment like gluten experiments, for example. And a lot of those practicals that you have might be based around that. So a lot of it, for example, you choose yourself. So it could be planning meals for somebody who's a diabetic, but it could also be, for example, I demonstrate how to fillet a fish one week, and the following week you have to fillet the fish and then use the fillet to make something like fish cakes, for example. Homework, usually set once a week depending on the topic, but there are occasions when I might set a piece that is to last a fortnight. So it really depends on the topic that you're studying. We do try and include lots of trips. So Cheshire Show is a really popular one. One year we had students judging the children's section of the cheese there, which was great fun. And we have done holidays abroad. So the last one we went to Barcelona on a food trip. We went to a Michelin-starred restaurant and had some training with them. It was amazing. And we're really hoping to do that once again as soon as we can travel. So hopefully next year, maybe that will come into play. Okay, so what should you expect? If you enjoy, or why should you study the food at school? If you enjoy your food lessons at the moment, you know, the theory and the practical side, you're going to love the course. I'd be mad to say to you, choose it if you like just cooking, because the course isn't just about cooking. Yes, obviously that's a big element, but the theory and the written work is equally as important as your ability to cook. And in fact, more marks go on the written element than it does actually on your cooking. So you've got to like both elements. If you've got a passion for food, you like experimenting, being creative, understand how ingredients work, again, you're going to really enjoy it. And if you're interested in diet and lifestyle, you know, how your body works, again, it's going to be a great course for you. So I've included this slide just to give you some additional information. So it's just to show you what kind of results you can achieve if you study GCSE food preparation nutrition here. The top element here is the grades that we achieve. So just to give you an example, over the last 3 years that this course has been running, nearly 58% of students that take it achieve a grade 7 to 9. On average, 20% of students achieve a grade 7 to 9 nationally. Okay, that's over the last 3 years. Grade 4 to 9, here we've achieved 96.5% of students get a grade 4 to 9, nationally 73.5. So you can see our grades are much higher than the national average if you study GCSE food here. If you have any questions about the GCSE, my name's Mrs. Halstead. Just give me an email on the email address you can see. I'm happy to answer any of your questions, and thank you for listening.